Now, for those people out there who've never heard of P.A.P.I before, what makes you stand out or makes you better than the other ones? Why should somebody who's listening to this podcast say, I'm going to reach out to Telogy and ask them? By the way, this is not a sponsored podcast. Okay. This is just pure interest on my part. What makes you guys good or better than others?
Yeah. Look, I'm going to be completely honest. There are really great tools out there, and I've used many of them. What makes us different is how we see the scales a little bit differently than others. So our competition will also bring in value stronger, or focus more on the big five. We've split the big five into 7 areas, for example. So we broadened it a bit, but our focus is on the needs and roles part of the personality profile. And if we go a little bit back into the history of personality profiling, which is also interesting, is that the big five, to my understanding, has been developed to standardize testing for personality so that different psychologists can use that to come back to a baseline to compare results with each other. If we didn't have a baseline, then all the research would never talk to each other and we could never compare and do...
There would be no comparability.
Liability studies, really.
You've mentioned the big five a couple times and you've said you've expanded it to 7. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What are the big five?
The ocean profile, the oldest theory that we base everything on. There is a good discussion about, should this be redone? What are people saying about the big five? Is that even a personality, etc.? But that's, I think, a discussion for a different stage. But we are working with the baseline of the big five, which was developed.
And most of the big accepted models work with the big five, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's almost like you cannot develop a personality tool without forming it on the big five, because you need to prove retest, not just test retest reliability, but does it measure the same thing as other tools do? And if all the other tools are based on the big five, yours is going to eventually be based on that as well. Mm-hmm. So the big five talks about, and we call it the ocean because that's the acronym for the big five, mm-hmm. which is openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
Okay.
You hear neuroticism and you go, ooh, that's not good, right?
Well, if you're familiar with The Path Less Traveled, which is a book I read a million years ago, neuroticism is actually one of the things that he talks about. So I don't have a negative connotation, but I think for people who've not heard of it in a positive context, they might say, oh, I'm not neurotic. But neuroticism is part of everybody's personality profile in one form or the other. Yeah. Similar to narcissism, without being a full-blown narcissist, everybody has narcissistic traits. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have this ocean model, and you've added 2 more. What are the 2 more that you guys added?
So we haven't added 2 more. We split the big five into our 7 areas, which I wrote somewhere, and now I can't find them. Give me 1 second. You can edit this part out, please.
edit.
1 second. Sorry, I can't find it now.
Should I screen share with one of the models?
Yes, please.
Hold on. I was a master pupil, Streber, and I've done some preparation.
Yeah, thank you. I've got it here as well. Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah.